There's another thing that hurts me about Sri Lanka. On my first trip to Sri Lanka, I was there in 93. I saw the old school Sri Lankan player. You go to Ranjit Fernando's house, there's Leo Vijayasinghe, there's Michael Tissera, Anura Tenekul. There's a certain breeding, a certain class about these gentlemen. And so when I first heard that anti-corruption was setting up an office in Sri Lanka, I said, Sri Lanka, because let's move on to another generation. I said, if you tell me Mahila Jayawardena, Kumar Sangakkara, Muttiah Muralidharan, I said, if you tell me that these three people require an anti-corruption unit, I'll stop what I'm doing. And yet, it affected me initially because to me, Sri Lanka is this country of beautiful romantic cricketers, and that's changed. Why is that happening? And surely that must hurt a lot of people.
Well, I think corruption's always been part and parcel of this game, unfortunately. You had it happen in the late 1990s and the early 2000s. And then it went from match fixing to spot fixing. And then when you have suddenly a game of cricket in a country that is devoid of the old stalwarts, the people who can really, impart experience and knowledge and self-respect and respect for the game and its culture and its rules and its traditions into a young side, then that side becomes vulnerable. And over the years, if you take the dressing room of the Sri Lankan sides today and the first class structures, you don't have any of the old greats there to give off their wisdom, to give off their experience, to make cricketers understand what their responsibilities are and how.
Not at the clubs. Sorry, not at the clubs. When you were a kid at the club, there were people around you.
Yes, but not anymore. Now, if you really go to the clubs, the most experienced players are all leaving to Australia and England because playing for a club is not a professional exercise anymore. So if you want to earn a living, you go abroad. So all these young children, young kids playing come into club dressing rooms that are devoid of experience, devoid of that decency in terms of culture.
Corruption is so unlike Sri Lanka.
It is, but it definitely it depends on who you speak to. Right. But the bottom line is when you have a vulnerable dressing room, when you have a vulnerable first-class cricketing structure, then it's open season for any of these corruptors to come in and try and get their hooks through into the cricketers. And they use coaches, they can use selectors, they can use
groundsmen sometimes.
Groundsmen, whoever you want. But the ever-present danger of corruption is there for every country. And if you see the evolution of corruption from having started, way back with cricket, in the West, and it travels to the East, and you have all these informal betting circles and bookmakers, and you have vast amounts of money in terms of TV rights, in terms of TV revenue and television, now taking the game to every household. Corruption, unfortunately, will rear its ugly head from time to time. The real important thing is to empower players to say no, to provide them with the right awareness and education programs, and again, the nurturing grounds really, really count that they are corruption-free, and it extends to really vetting the administrators as well. And in Sri Lanka, unfortunately, cricket and politics always has this unhealthy and corruptive influence, when it comes to each other. And I think politics being completely taken out of cricket is
Are you disappointed? Are you disappointed at having to prove that the 2011 final was clean?
Yeah, it's disappointing and also a bit amusing at times. And we had that recently when the ex-sports minister made quite a frivolous claim. And we had to go in and answer questions and give our statements on it, quite a few from the team. But you also understand that when an individual is politically and morally corrupt, they kind of view the world and other individuals in relation to themselves, and they sometimes project their own insecurities onto others.
But actually to go through answering those questions and making the statement was I think, really, really healthy for the game. Whether it was me or whether it was a selector, whether it was Mahila, whether it was anyone else. I think that process is really important for people to understand what respect for the game means, what playing the game in its best spirit and the right way means, and the fact that people of integrity are exactly what you need in cricket. People who stand up, are unafraid to speak their minds, And also, when you have any questions to be answered, you don't need to hide. You can go and answer any of those questions in any forum. And like I said, when it comes to politics, and you have politically and morally corrupt individuals who are affiliated with sport, even in an official capacity, as we have seen with this particular individual, you understand where all of this comes from. And you don't have to be really afraid or really second guess yourself as to what their motivations are. You just have to face that, and you answer whatever questions, and you know where you're coming from, you know where your basis is, and that's more than enough, not to prove anyone else wrong, but to actually make a statement of fact that you are very secure in who you are.